Hey, what's up guys? Tim Little here, Matt Allen with Tactical Bassin. Been getting a lot of requests for a squarebill video. So what we wanted to talk to you guys about today is a little bit about squarebilling. Matt and I, we love making fish react, and when the fish come up to the shallows, a squarebill can be an awesome bait to get the big bass to react, and can make for an awesome day on the water. So go ahead, Matt, what do you got?
Well, just to start it off, I mean, squarebilling is such a big category, right? Like anything else with crankbaits, there are hundreds of options probably. You could spend thousands and thousands of dollars if you want to. I mean, just laying here, we've got, I don't know, just in showing you a sampling of baits, there's too much money laying out here. So I think what we want to drive home is that it's important for you to find the baits that you've got confidence in. Start out by buying a sampling. Don't buy 15 of every bait. You won't be able to even afford to go to the lake. So just buy a sampling of baits, throw them on your local water, and when you do that, you're gonna find where your confidence is. And once you know that, simplify, cover your key colors, stick with that confidence bait. I think it's gonna go a long way for you.
Yeah, some of the confidence baits for me are going to be different for confidence baits for him.
Right.
You know, I love the Lucky Craft, the BDS series, the 2, 3, 4. You know, what that has to do with the size of the bait itself and the depth. And do your research. You know, a lot of these baits from different companies kind of do the same depth. They all have different ranges. Yeah. You know, play around, you know, with the different baits, what they dive to. You know, you got the Mega Bass, the S Cranks, you got the Spro. What's that? That's the Little John, little tiny squarebill. We throw a lot of the River to Sea.
A lot of the Biggie.
You know, another thing too, a lot of these baits have rattles in them. Some have one knockers and some are silent. And me personally, I tend to like the silent baits. So play around with that. There's a lot of baits on the market. So do your research, do a lot of reading, go to Tackle Warehouse, get on some forums and see the main differences between these baits, and stick to what you have confidence in.
You know, it's funny, Tim mentions that we have some different confidence baits, and we're fishing the same places, oftentimes on the same boat, and he loves those BDS baits. I throw a lot of the Biggie, I throw a lot of the Strike Kings, the giant ones, and your smaller baits. But again, he touched on that depth range thing. That's critical. You know, the beauty of a squarebill is that it comes through cover well. Whether you're bouncing it off wood, whether you're out on a big rock flat, bouncing your way through the rocks, they come through cover well, but you also don't want to be digging down in that cover and constantly getting stuck. So when you're playing with these baits, focus on that depth. What he's talking about is this bait may go to 5 feet, where this one might go to 3.5 or 4 feet. Seems like no big deal, but if you're fishing on a flat where this one's getting stuck on every cast and this one's barely ticking the rocks and coming through perfectly, makes all the difference in the world. And that really is where that BDS line that he's talking about shines really well.
Yeah, BDS 2 is 2 feet of water, and you can really fish really shallow. And another thing to pay attention to when you're throwing these baits is rod and reels and line. Why don't you touch on that?
Yeah, you know, we talk about throwing braid to leader a lot, and I still do that. When I'm squarebilling, a lot of the time I'm throwing a really light braid, like a 20-pound braid, and then something in the 12, all the way up to a 20-pound line if I'm in heavy cover. But this is actually one of the few circumstances where sometimes I will go to a straight fluoro like Tim. And the reason why is we're fishing such shallow areas that if I'm running too bright of a braid, I feel like they see the braid before they even know that the bait is coming. It's not that I don't fool them, it's that the braid scares them. They never even know there was a crankbait coming down the line. So a lot of the time when you're running that shallow water, it is important to go to something like a straight fluoro.
And this is the one point where I actually don't recommend going to fluoro, because my opinion on this, when you're throwing up there and you're burning this bait, because you're burning these baits fast, you know, 7-to-1 reel, I throw braid to a leader, and when I hit grass, I'm popping it. And when it's like dragging something by a cat. They're not looking at the bait. When that thing rips through the grass and that thing pops up, the fish, it's just an instinct, they eat it. So I don't think they care about seeing the braid. I think that it's just something that triggers in their head, they're reacting, you're getting that bite. When you hit that grass and you pop that rod, when you use that braid, there's no give, so you can rip that through the grass and get those reaction bites. So stick to your fluoro, and I'll stick to my braid. But squarebill, man, it's a lot of fun, especially when the fish move up shallow and the tulies in the grass. It's a great way to catch a lot of fish, catch some big fish. So you know, a lot of baits on the market. Do some research, play around with them, and stick to your confidence baits.
If you could only recommend one, I mean, we use a ton of baits. You pick one, I'll pick one. Where would you start?
I would go with the BDS3 by Lucky Craft. This is the BDS4, BDS3. It's a great all-around bait, 3 to 4 feet, square bill. You can throw it on docks, you can throw it in grass, and it's you know, it won the last FLW tournament on Clear Lake. So
yeah, for me, I would go River to Sea Biggie, and they make it in a silet, and I think is it a bumpin'? Is that what they call the one that makes sound? The Biggie in the bumpin', the one that makes sound, has a lot of noise. I actually do like that sound. I think you're fishing fast, you're banging into things, more sound the better, get that aggressive bite. Then if you need to fine tune it from there, try and get your bigger fish, you could go from there. But I think just to cover water, build confidence, that Biggie with that rattle in there, that's where I would start.
Yeah, both great choices. Like, you know, we fished both of these. What about rods? Did we talk about rods at all?
We didn't, and why don't you start on rods, because odds are we don't agree.
I like a 7.6 moderate fast action rod, you know, a crankbait rod. And the reason I like that is because I'm already using the braid, so I don't need a real stiff rod to rip that through the grass. But when you do hook those big fish, you know, you hook a 7-8 pounder on a bait like this, little hooks, that rod has a lot of flex, and it keeps the fish pegged. You know, it's got that, it doesn't unload very fast. It stays loaded, and you know, plays the fish really well.
Me, I actually go to a little bit shorter rod, and this, normally I'm using a lot of 7.5 footers, 8 footers for various things. We both use a lot longer stuff than most people use, but this is one of those times, especially if I'm in around cover, I'll drop down to a 7-footer. Still moderate, still very light compared to what I use for everything else, because I agree, you want to get those hooks in them, but once you've got them, you need to be able to play those fish and really keep that rod loaded and bowed up, or they're going to be able to pull those hooks. But for me, that 7-footer, I'm able to be a little bit more accurate when I'm in and around the cover. And then if I do have a big one that's really trying to dig in, I feel like on the 7-footer, I don't have to load as much rod before I get to the backbone, and I can start to horse them out. When that rod's a little bit longer, I feel like there's so much give sometimes that I'm almost where I can't get them out of the cover. But again, it's just a personal feel thing. Some of that probably plays into the line that we're throwing on them as well.
Right.
So, you know, it balances out.
No, that 7-footer, that is key. It's when you get in and like on Clear Lake, when you're fishing through these docks, you're going into the docks and you're making real short, accurate casts. That extra 6 inches does get in the way sometimes. That little 7-footer is a great rod. So, anyways, a real quick and down and dirty on squarebills. Like I said, it's a great way to catch fish, get them to react when they're up shallow. It works, lot of fun.
So. We didn't touch on color. I don't think we really even need to, because color is such an elaborate thing. Keep it simple. I mean, we're always telling you to do that. Find something in a crawdad pattern, something in a shad pattern. If you're fishing those really dark days or you're fishing really murky water, get something with a lot of color, a lot of flash. Start there, and as soon as you have that confidence, stay simple. Get those couple key baits that you like, cover those categories, and I think you're done.
Cool. Well, hope this video helps, guys. Remember, if you guys have any requests for videos, email us, tacticalbassin.com or at gmail.com. And we have the shirts, we have the hats available. Remember to follow us on social media, like, subscribe to the channel, and send us your video requests, guys. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, we'll see you soon.
As hard as you can. So it's hard for a lot of guys to transition from that powerful hook set, heavy braided line, down to just a really finesse movement to get the frog to walk, but that's so important. So for me, I like a shorter rod. I generally use a 7'3" to a 7'6". For me, that's a short rod. For other people, they might want a 7-footer or something else, but a 7'3" seems